Of Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Hello and welcome to the Bengaluru semi-finals of Businessline Boardroom Challenge 2023. I am Srimati Sridharan. Businessline Boardroom Challenge, a unique competition for B-Schoolers, has 3 levels: a preliminary round, a semi-final across 8 cities and a grand finale. The online tests in the prelims tested students' decision-making skills and ability to work in teams. In the semi-finals, the students got the chance to meet and compete with the best minds from top B schools across the country and present their strategies. And in finals, students will showcase their skills by solving a live corporate case. Now without further ado, let's jump right into it. I now request Mr. Vinay Kamath from Businessline to take over.
Welcome all to the BL Boardroom Challenge 2023. I am Vinay Kamath of Businessline. This unique case challenge for B-Schoolers is in its 7th year. In the first year of the challenge, in 2017, Reba Chennai was the winner, followed by ISP Hyderabad in 2018 and IIM Ranchi in 2019. SIBM Pune won the contest in 2020, while IIM Shillong won in 2021 and SPJMR in 2022. Till the 2019 edition, the semi-final rounds of the contest were held across 8 cities at B schools which hosted the event. The preliminary round has always been online, where students are administered a psychometric test to assess their decision-making skills and ability to work in teams. The grand finale, where B schools which won city-specific semi-finals competed for the grand prize, had in earlier years been held in Chennai. From the year 2020, keeping in mind the safety of the students and others involved in this contest during the pandemic, it has been conducted entirely online, including the semi-final rounds and the finals as well. This year too, we are conducting the event online, given its efficacy as a convenient medium where students don't need to spend time traveling to various destinations. The semi-finals case will test the participating teams on the knowledge of finance, marketing and strategy and decision-making skills and ability to work in teams. The BL Boardroom Challenge is a unique event which has become part of the calendar of contests for B schools. May the best team win the 2023 BL Boardroom Challenge. All the best.
To outline the case for the semi-finals, each of the teams had to take on a role of a consulting company that has a huge knowledge in the EV area. The task for the planning team is to make a 5-year business plan for a newly established company. This company, named Green Mobility India, is a subsidiary of a renewable energy giant. The participants have to facilitate its entry into the electronic vehicles market. They would need to present the dynamics and therefore qualitative and quantitative inputs if green energy can proceed in the EV space or not. The business plan if it feels the company should enter the field. Real impact of the EVs on the environment considering cradle to grave impact compared to ICE and hybrid. Understanding consumer preferences and secondary sources and projecting the market scenario for 5 years. Projected progress of charging infrastructure and its impact on penetration of EVs. Each team will get 15 minutes to present their case and will be followed by 5 minutes of questions and answers. The team will be marked for 50 points by each jury member. The team with the highest total wins. Here is the breakup. Understanding of case points 10. Case analysis 15. Solution 10. Presentation 10. Teamwork 5. Now it's over to the teams presenting today.
Good evening, one and all present over here. Today, I, Ayush Narang, Anmol Manija, and Navedya Jain are here not as representatives of A to C consultancy company, but as an extended family version of Green Mobility India Private Limited itself. Now, let's start with the presentation.
Hello, sir and ma'am. We will start with an overview of IC engines, hybrid, as well as CEVs. So, starting with the IC, internal combustion engines. So, the prices of IC engines, IC powered cars are lowest as compared to the EVs and the hybrids. The types of IC engines available in market are mainly petrol and diesel. The emissions generated by IC engines is highest in the car segments because they generate green global house gases and they have dependency on fossil fuels. Their maintenance is less compared to EVs and hybrid when we compare service cost of the car, and they are more reliable than EV and hybrid because they have been in the market for a very long time, and their efficiency is less as compared to the others. Now, seeing an overview of hybrid, the price of hybrid is a bit over IC, but much lower than the electric vehicles. There are a lot of types of hybrid like plug-in hybrid and uh, sport hybrid and etc. The emissions of hybrid vehicles is bit less than IC engine, but EV are still better at emissions. And a few hybrid engines require charging, like plug-in hybrids. However, others don't require charging. They generate electricity while the car stops, because when the excess power in car gets at the time of braking, the electricity is generated. They are dependent on both fuel as well as electricity, but they are not dependent on solely one source of energy. Their efficiency is much better than the traditional IC engines, but lower than the electric vehicle. They are more reliable than ICE. They are less reliable than IE, but more reliable than EV. and their maintenance is also a bit more than the IC engines. Now, seeing about the electric engines, they are much more costly than both IC and hybrid. Like if we see about Tata Nexon, the diesel and petrol engine cost around 7 to 13 and 14 lakh. The top end variant goes at around 14-15 lakhs, but their electric vehicle cost above 20 lakhs. So there is a price gap between the electric version and the IC version of cars. The functioning is they work on one or more than one electric motors with which give power to the wheels, and their emission they have zero uh, tailpipe emissions, so no emission is coming out and they are not generating global gases, and they are dependent only on electricity. They are much more efficient than IC engines, and they are less relevant than the others, and the market for EV is still not there. Like it is still evolving, and maintenance in EV on daily basis is very minimal. In like 7 to 8 years, the batteries of the EV has to be changed. Uh, Now let's see the impact of EVs on environment. Like a lot of us think that EV only has good side. It leads to no pollution, but there are always two sides of a coin. Now let's see both the sides of coin. So positive sides are there is no tailpipe emission. It does not rely on fossil fuels, so no burning of fossil fuels. They are more efficient, which will lead to a healthy environment, and they does not lead to pollution, which is very important for an economy like India, where noise pollution and air pollution is a very major problem. Looking at the negative side of EVs, so there is a Forbes report said that in China, the are producing 60% more CO2 while the manufacturing of EV batteries. Now my colleague Navidya Jan will take over.
So, good evening, board members. So, what do you think about the global outlook of EV and the domestic market? So, are the domestic and global markets, according to you, are the same for EV or not? So, the answer would be a no. The global market is quite different than the domestic market for the EV at the present moment. So, in the global market, we can see a lot of different players have already established and have already gathered a name for themselves. For example, the Tesla in the United States has been a leader in the global market. And one of the biggest manufacturers of EV in the global market is China. And they are currently selling over 10 million units of EV vehicles every year. So this data is according to the past year. And so the largest manufacturer is in China, and global market valuation is more than $261 billion, which is a very huge amount. And in the global market, the infrastructure for selling EV is already established. They have already established charging stations and already have a good grasp of how they can cater to the EV market. Now, looking at the domestic outlook, we have a key players such as Tata Motors, which have already penetrated the Indian market for EV as of now. They have already brought in several cars such as Tata EV Nexon and all the different variants as such, which they have in the IC engine as well. But the problem with them is that the cost of getting those vehicles is very much higher than ICE, as already mentioned by Anmol. So, but the looking at the brighter side, that would be cost efficient for first of all for the participants, for the customers. But on the other side, as he mentioned, that the battery needs to be changed every 5 years. So that would also lead to larger costs in long term. The EV slow down the maintenance cost, but in the long run, we have to pay huge cost to cater to the EV vehicles that we own. So some of the key players in the normal retail segment is Tata Motors, and in the higher end segment, a lot of key players are also being promoted by the government as such. For example, Mercedes and Audi and Hyundai are also catering to the EV market in India. So in the last year, the sales for EV was 1 million units, which also involves different segments of EV vehicles, two-wheelers, three-wheelers, and passenger vehicles as well. And so the valuation is 5.6 billion US dollar, which seems to be very high according to India, being a single player in the considering a single economy. But this is due to a huge population that we are catering to. This market is yet to grow in the future, which could grow to a large extent, but the future is uncertain. So now looking at a suggestion as a consultant, we would now move to the what are we selecting. So we suggest to you that why hybrid should be a best choice for the company as of now. So as mentioned in the slide, you can see and also mentioned that the cost of acquiring ICE engines, hybrid engines, is much lower than the EV engines. And the fuel cost and maintenance cost may be higher for the hybrid and ICE engines, but it would still be less in the long run. So what we suggest is that the company should go on with a parallel hybrid, which is that the car follows ICE engine, and whenever there is load required, the small motor which is already inside the hybrid car also functions as a support to the main engine. So it helps in increasing fuel efficiency and also bringing down the costs for the customers, and and it is all easier to sell hybrid cars due to the costs. And also, so why do we suggest hybrid? The reason for the same is, as we mentioned, the environmental factors of EV vehicles are still not clear, because in the global market, producing a EV battery is very hazardous. First of all, it causes pollution while the production of the EV batteries, as well as when after 5 years, the cost of switching the battery comes in, and also the hazardous waste, which is to be disposed in the EV battery, which is lithium ion. It also causes a degradation of the environment. So for now, the
Adding to
company.
Navide's point,
Yes.
it's okay, Navide, you can carry on.
For now, the company should delve into parallel hybrids, and move forward and try to look at because for India, we don't currently cater to the structure that global market has for EV, and also we need to transition into EV maybe later when more development is done into that stage. But for the current Indian market follows a structure which is on reliability and cost effectiveness. So for now, the hybrid model would suffice for the Indian market. So now Ayush will take over.
Adding to Navide's point, the sales of ICE cars in India last year was 47 lakhs, and the sale of EVs in India last year was 60,000. I'm really sorry, this figure is actually 6,000 here. The actual figure is 60,000. Now, my colleague Ayush will take over.
Respected board members, in order to make a systematic and reliable decision, the framework that we follow is to consider all the alternatives. When drawing up a list of alternatives, the three choices that we came up with was hybrid, electric, and the old and prevalent ICE engine, which is the internal combustion engine. Now, we have gone ahead with suggesting a hybrid engine, but it's also important to understand why we have not chosen the other two. Let's talk about why we are not going ahead with the electric engine. First is the charging infrastructure. Currently, there are only 9,000 publicly available charging stations in India, whereas the demand is really high. In order to meet the demand of 13,20,000 public charging stations, we'll have to add charging stations in leaps and bounds by 2030, which, as per our current standards, we aren't even close to. Next is the rapid changes. Since the EV industry is still nascent, there are rapid changes taking place every few months. For a company like Green Mobility, that's just about to enter into the automobile segment, entering into a dynamic industry won't be the right step as of now. And third is the price as well as the demand. The electric car is more expensive than the hybrid as well as the ICE engine, whereas the demand for the same is considerably low when compared to the other units. In India, we are currently selling more than 3 lakh automobiles every month, whereas EVs form only a fraction of that. And last but not the least is the government goal. The government of India's goal is to reduce carbon emissions, not produce more EVs. There are various alternatives in order to reduce carbon emissions, which are hybrid engines. And even if in the hybrid engine there is a bit of petrol, for that also the government of India is coming up with ethanol-based petrol. Currently, our target is to meet 20% ethanol mixing by 2025, and the long-term target will go on till 40%. Now, why not ICE? The first ICE engine was made in the 1900s. Now, since then, the world has moved in leaps and bounds, and even the automobile industry has grown considerably. ICE engine doesn't meet the long-term vision of reducing carbon emissions. And second, tough competition. Currently, Maruti Suzuki is the largest player. They are also delving into all the three frameworks. We'll face competition from companies that have been in the ICE engines for more than 100 years. And third, there's no government support for ICE engines. While there is a scheme known as the FAME scheme, the government is planning on improving the EV as well as hybrid infrastructure in India. The first phase of the FAME was from 2015 till 2019. Under that, the subsidies that were given for 2 and 3 wheelers were a substantial amount, which was 22,000 for 2 wheelers and 33,000 and 66,000 for 3 wheelers. Then in the second phase of FAME 2, it was reduced, which led to a slower growth in the industry. And in the third phase of the FAME 3, which is currently going on, the subsidies have been increased further, but the EV sales is yet to catch up. And last but not the least, the company's vision is the company stands for green mobility. The vision for the long run is running green-based energy vehicles. Now we have developed a future projection for the next 5 years for the company. And our goal is to amplify or expand our business after every 2 years, because we believe 2 years is a substantial amount of time in order to assess the market. For the first year, we'll be producing hybrid units of 12,000 hybrid units. In the second year, the same. In the third year, we are planning to scale up and double our production. And in the fourth year, like I said, since we are scaling it every 2 years, we'll maintain the same. And in the fifth year, we have set an ambitious target of maintaining 40,000 hybrid units, which we believe can be absorbed in India. And for this, we'll require heavy expenditure in plants. It can be in the form of land, equipment, and labor. While the labor cost will keep on rising by a substantial margin over the 5 years, we'll invest in land as well as equipment in the year 1 as well as year 3 and year 5. In order to assess what was the investment requirements, we went ahead with checking out the other players in the industry. And we saw that Toyota is coming up with a hybrid manufacturing plant in 2026. And for that, it will produce around 1 lakh units every year in that plant. While our scale is smaller, therefore our cost is also smaller comparatively. And since we are still in the nascent stage, we'll allot a lot of our budget towards research and development as well as promotion. This will entail about 65% of our revenue. Why? Because we need to expand fast and we need to expand over the whole country. Since we need to promote cars, we'll go ahead with billboards, newspaper ads, as well as social media. And next, battery cost. As per the industry average, we have gone ahead with the battery cost of 4 lakh rupees per unit. And for this, in the first 2 years, we'll incur a cost of 480 crore rupees. In the next 2 years, 960 crore rupees. And in the last year, 1600 crore rupees. The on-road price that we have assumed for a hybrid sale is 19,57,500 rupees. because of which our revenues for the first year will be 2,349 crores. But our total expenditure is 2,683. That is why we'll be incurring a loss in the first year, but we can cover that over the 5-year period. Over the first year as well as the third year, since we are rapidly scaling, we will be incurring losses, but the year 2, year 4, and year 5 will be substantial enough to cover those losses. Now, we might have come towards the end of our presentation, but we hope this isn't the end of our collaboration with Green Mobility India. In order to take this collaboration a step further, we would like you to reach out to us on the following details. Thank you.
Hi guys, so it was a nice presentation and good arguments for saying why you should go for hybrids and not EVs. So I saw that in your argument for hybrids, you had considered maintenance cost, service cost, and something else. What was the first part? What was the other thing which you considered in terms of cost?
Ma'am, first is cost for running every day, like in
The first
petrol
set of
vehicles.
box, yeah, on top, yeah. So that was the cost of running.
Yes, ma'am. The cost of running for hybrid is comparatively lower than IC engines, but higher than the electric vehicles.
Okay,
Ma'am,
okay.
and every 5 to 7 years, the battery of the electric vehicle has to be changed, and that will be a very big cost for the customer.
Okay, no problem. I got that part. My only thing was, I was thinking maybe you could have presented the total cost of ownership for the vehicles. See, you gave me some expenses, some things here and there, but in terms of total cost of ownership, because we often see workings everywhere, even newspapers, there are articles or online in any sites, there are articles showing total cost of ownership, where they say EVs at the end of the day, total cost of ownership is lower, although upfront cost may be higher or some elements of cost may be higher. So how does this hybrid work on? Because ultimately customer has to get convinced that total cost of ownership of hybrid should be lower than the other two options, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am. So the functioning of hybrid is that it basically runs on a smaller IC engine as compared to a traditional IC car. So the IC engine is smaller, but it is supported by a electric motor. And there can be more, but generally there is one electric motor. So what happens is whenever the car needs to climb hill or needs to overtake, at that time the electric motor gives the power to the wheels, and that's how it manages the performance of the car as well as the fuel efficiency of the car.
Okay, so have you worked out at the back end whether, at the end of the day, the total ownership cost for customer for hybrids is lower, and that's how you decided that you'll go for hybrids?
Yes, ma'am. In the case, it was given that the maintenance and service cost for the IC engines was 1,20,000. For hybrid, it was 1 lakh, and for electric vehicles, this was 50,000. The cost for maintaining the car.
Okay.
Adding on to Anmol's point, also another reason why a hybrid engine is better than the electric engine is that a hybrid engine is very light when compared to an EV engine. Since it's made of lithium, the car overall weight of the car increases considerably. Therefore, a hybrid engine will be better, as per understanding.
No, what is made of lithium?
The electric car's engine.
The battery.
Okay. Battery.
Yeah.
Okay. So weight will be higher for hybrid versus EV or lower? Sorry, I didn't get you.
I think he means lithium ion batteries in the EVs will be heavier than
Yes.
what is used in a hybrid vehicle,
Hybrid vehicle.
Yes,
Okay.
sir, it increases the weight of the vehicle.
Okay. So you are convinced that hybrids is the way to go because, at the end of the day, number one, regulatory or the other aspects are still developing in the country. And number two, because as per your calculations, hybrids do make sense for customers more than EVs.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am,
So
our
the basic goal for
suggestion for the
the
company.
government is to reduce the emissions. So as of now, when we produce electric vehicles, so to produce the battery, first of all, there is a higher cost, so we are not saving on anything on that. We might be saving on the running cost for the electric vehicles, but not on the manufacturing cost. So the customers are
Okay.
not getting any benefit as of now.
Okay.
Uh, and also, when we see at the hybrid models, the customers are getting better efficiency in terms of consumption of fuels.
Mm.
They might be a bit higher than the ICE engine, but in the long run, they are not making any changes for the customer as per se. Because in terms of EV, the customers are facing a challenge. They might not see the challenge upfront, because the cost that a customer has to incur after 5 to 7 years for the battery change is substantially high. It is around 30% of the vehicle acquisition cost.
Okay, but aren't you seeing reports that battery costs are coming down by the year?
Yes, ma'am.
And
Yes, ma'am.
even if you
Yes,
Google, there are
ma'am.
so many
Adding
projections
We are seeing
showing
that
by
uh,
2030.
the battery costs are coming down, but the basic requirement for our India is to reduce emissions. The cost might be coming down, but when we talk about the waste that we are producing, so when we dispose of those batteries after 5 years, they still are a hazardous waste. So nobody is talking much about that. So that area needs to be much more researched about. So we currently stand at the suggestion of a hybrid, because anyway the ICE cars are running. If we switch to hybrid cars, the daily cost for the consumer would be reduced, and also we might be transitioning into EV, if EV or another fuels, if those fuels would be helping us to reduce emissions. And as well as when you mention about the government regulations, they are inclined towards EV as of now. They are giving subsidies, but as mentioned that in the two-wheeler industry, the subsidies have been reduced, and also hybrid is much better for EV, as my colleague mentioned, because government is also turning into different energy fuels such as ethanol and also hydrogen vehicles. Research is being going on, so it is much safer to switch to hybrid, because the customers, as a company, we need to first cater to the customers along with the environment. So hybrid is much better in terms of entering into the market and moving forward. And also the research is still continuing, as you mentioned that the costs are still coming down, but the environmental factor, when we see in the long run, we need to save energy. But to charge electric vehicles, we still need a lot of electricity, and to generate that electricity, India is still considering using coal and other fossil fuels. So it is no benefit for India to use fossil fuels to use electric vehicles. We can anyway use petroleum vehicles to
Sure.
generate electricity,
Yeah,
generate.
I think you covered a lot of points. It's quite a comprehensive response to what I asked.
Yes,
Good.
ma'am. May I add something to
Yes,
Navitha's
please.
point?
Yeah.
Ma'am, our goal, our suggestion to companies is not to eliminate the idea of EV. Our suggestion is to consider the idea of hybrid for now. And as you can see on the 5-year plan, we are spending a big chunk on R&D. So our suggestion to companies to spend on R&D, see how the market is flowing, and then right now work on hybrid, then maybe switch to plug-in hybrid, and then go to complete electric vehicle. However, the market is evolving in future.
Got it. So that my second question was on that only. So you're showing a substantial portion of your expenses, I say 40% on R&D and 65%, 25%, isn't it, on promotions? Generally, if you see in the industry, this I'm not sure if these are the kind of numbers that anybody would do. So why would you want to start the production and then also spend so much? You've chosen hybrid. So what is the R&D for? See, if you have to do R&D to, choose between some areas, then maybe you should do it and then get into production. So after deciding on a particular line, what more would you spend on, like for the 40%? Maybe some a limit of, say, usually companies may have an upper limit of 5-10% is what India people usually spend on R&D.
Ma'am, we believe that every company is a technology company at the end of the day. And for that, every company should allocate a substantial amount towards research and development. While our allocation might be higher than the industry average, we can justify it. How? Because, Anmol, can you share the screen again?
Yes, just a second.
The projection slide. The first year, we are allocating 940 crores towards research and development. While hybrid engines are slightly better than slightly more modern than the internal combustion engine when you compare it to EV, but we believe there is a large scope of improvement in this as well. How? Because when you look at a hybrid engine has two parts. First, the electric motor as well as the engine that requires petrol. For petrol also, ethanol-based mixing is still not reached where it can be. In Brazil, which is the leader in ethanol mixing, almost 100% ethanol mixing is also prevalent. We believe that if we allocate a large substantial amount towards research and development, we can push ethanol mixing for our company. Why? It will also help us in increasing the sugarcane production in India. As India is an agricultural economy, this will have multiple benefits in
No, you can
that
develop
sector
the
as well.
engine. The government should supply that fuel, the fuel with that specification for which you develop, isn't it? If government is going to give you only a 25% mixing, your fuel, you cannot have an engine for 100% mixing. You may not benefit.
But we can allocate a large amount towards the research and development in conducting our own research.
So we need to develop an engine that the government would cater to and allow mixing, because in India still no develop there has been still development going on, as we can see in the recent reports as well. Government also mentions that they will promote ethanol mixing by end of 2030. A lot more allocation would be increased, but the development should come from our side. We are a manufacturer, and when manufacturer will bring change in the industry, we will bring an engine that would cater to the Indian market and would allow mixing on such large scale, and will also be efficient in terms of production in India. So that is why we have allocated a large chunk of our R&D a chunk of our revenue in R&D. And also if we invest at the moment, because a lot of companies are coming into hybrid and they are just general hybrid, they are not catering a lot of ethanol based engines, and basically they are not they are just entering into the market as a different segment, but not researching a lot into the hybrid sector. A lot of companies are going into EV sector as such. For example, Tata has already gone into hardcore EV vehicles, and some brand vehicles are coming into hybrid as well, but those engines are international engines. For example, Toyota is providing hybrid engines, MG is providing hybrid engines, maybe Maruti is also providing hybrid engines, but that is also with collaboration to Toyota. So as an Indian brand, we can be the first to research more on the hybrid engines and enter the market with a better research. First of all, we have research that we have to enter into the hybrid space, that is for sure, and we can develop our engines in the coming years so that we can cater to the government needs as well as the customers needs as well.
Okay, your arguments are sound, but I wonder whether it will work, because it also depends a lot on your external factors like fuel availability, and the engines also have to cater to that. Anyway, it was a good
I would like to add one last point to my colleagues.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Ma'am, like Navidya mentioned, that Toyota is the leading player in the hybrid sector. Toyota follows the concept of Kaizen, which is a Japanese concept. Now, what is Kaizen? Continuous improvement. And how can you continuously improve? By investing in research and development. We may not be there where Toyota is, but in order to reach there, we have to allocate a substantial amount towards research and development.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, Vinay.
Yeah, Lalit, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So thanks a lot, guys. Wonderful presentation. I have very few queries. One is you have mentioned the battery cost of 4 lakhs. So how is it different from EV battery cost?
So, sir, it is different in the way that we have mentioned for different kinds of hybrid electric vehicles that are present, and also we mentioned that hybrid engines have a electric motor which requires battery, but it is not proper lithium ion battery that engine needs to perform the task, but it is a battery to store energy which is produced while, as he mentioned, that when the car brakes or produces energy, so that energy is stored into that battery, and that battery is provided by the electric motor in the hybrid car
No. So the
to store
cost
the.
is almost same. I mean, for the Tata Nexon, if you
So
see their cost as well as your cost of the battery. So if as a consumer I have to bear the same cost, so why would I? Where's the advantage?
So, sir, the advantage is
sir,
in terms of long run, because in long run, in this battery needs not change as the electric vehicle for sure needs the change of battery after 5 years. That battery is the main source of energy for the car, and it has to be disposed of after 5 to 7 years and needs replacement. So, in terms of that cost, we are saving for the customer, and we can say that the running cost would be lower for hybrid than ICE. So we are in between at the moment.
No. You mean to say that these batteries will not be replaced after
Uh,
5 years?
in 5 years, because these batteries might be maintained for a longer period, because in EV we need to change the batteries after 5 years, because that is the uh, main source of power for the car. But this is not the main source of power. This is just a battery which stores the energy when uh, the vehicle brakes or combustion takes place, and this stores the energy, while in terms of the EV, the battery which is there is regularly charged by plug-in chargers, which causes the battery to degrade very quickly, not quickly, but in terms of in relation to the hybrid engine, it is much easier to deteriorate, and so the hybrid engine, this battery would be available for a longer period and would not require complete replacement as in EV.
So in IC engines also the batteries have been replaced in 5 years. So how they
Yeah,
are different from these batteries which you are trying to produce?
uh, in the IC engine, the batteries which are changed does not cost this much, and also, as I mentioned, that this battery need not be. This is the full battery cost. So in the coming years, this full battery doesn't need to be changed, but a part of it is to be changed and maintained. But it does not cost as much as EV battery cost in replacement costs.
Okay.
so adding to
So
Navdeep's
is
point,
yeah. I'll
yes,
just
sir,
add
thank you.
to this and then you can answer probably. So see, don't you think that only lithium is not the only technology for battery manufacturing as of now? There is another, metal which has already come through, and that's hydrogen-based batteries, which is already been into production at some point as of now. So, don't you think that is going to solve this problem of lithium-ion batteries over a period of time, because it is a gradual progress, right? At the same time, you can answer together. To me, going for hybrid is a kind of defensive strategy. Because I mean, there is a disruption which is going on in the market, and EVs are, going to be the way ahead or the talk or the way of life. So I guess going. I mean, if your plan could have been that say next 5 years or say next 3 years we would be say hybrid, and then obviously gradually we'll move to EV. Don't you think that would be more progressive or futuristic in nature?
So, sir, starting with the cost of battery replacement. So, the battery used in a hybrid is smaller as compared to a pure electric vehicle. So, in electric vehicle, generally two electric motors are used, and whereas in hybrid, only one electric motor is used, which is smaller in size as compared to the full electric vehicle. Because the purpose of that electric motor is to serve to the IC engine whenever extra power is required. So that's why the cost of replacement for a hybrid battery is lower as compared to the electric vehicle. And as for the long-term future for the EV, sir, the government of India has actively been trying to find other sources for sustainable development in the segment. Like already, Indian government, the Transport Minister, Mr. Nitin Gadkari, has already introduced this policy that in the fuel that we use today, only 90% is gasoline, which is petrol. 10% is already ethanol. By around 2025, from 10%, ethanol mixture will be 20%. And in near future, he is planning to introduce 40% ethanol. They are working on this, and the vehicle that Mr. Nitin Gadkari uses runs on hydrogen. So Indian government is actively trying to find another resources for the future of sustainability. Also, sir, when it comes to EV, yes, that EV is a very green source, but still, not all the countries globally have the capacity to convert to EV. And even if we do convert to EV, sir, the impact that it will lead to a sustainable environment is very less as compared to the cost which will be incurred on EV. So in long term, we might get into EV, sir, but as of now, we believe that going to hybrid is a nice tactic. And then since we are spending so much on R&D, this is the only reason why we are spending so much on R&D. So we can explore the market and understand that should we convert to plug-in hybrid and should we go to full electric, how the market is for the future.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah. So from your study, you seem to have done an exhaustive study of the vehicles in the market. So which are the hybrid electric brands in the market? I know Honda has one, but which are other brands which have a good
Yes.
hybrid vehicles in the market?
So, sir, Honda has the city. Honda released a city version, a hybrid version of their famous sedan City, and another player in the Indian market are Suzuki. They have a hybrid Baleno and hybrid Ertiga, and other cars. And also Toyota has hybrid cars in Indian market. Besides them, MG has hybrid cars in India. And in globally, it's the most famous hybrid car today in the global world is Toyota Prius, Toyota Camry.
So the Indian government, under its fame, doesn't support hybrids as much as it does EVs, right?
Yes, sir.
So
It favors currently it favors EV more than it
yeah,
favors hybrid.
yeah. Uh, so do you think if the government support for EVs comes down, I mean, it is coming down regularly, then you feel that the hybrid vehicles would score over EVs, the total cost of ownership?
Sir, in the case that was given to us, the government concession, which is given on the electric vehicles right now, it d- it largely decides whether customers are going to buy the car or not. Because if government is providing subsidy to the manufacturer and to the buyer, then more and more people are going to buy EV. But since the EV is still a new concept for people, people still would rather buy an IC cars, which we can see from their buying behavior. So, sir, if the government continues to reduce their subsidy, then, sir, yes, buying an EV would become more expensive for the buyer, and demand would even fall for EV. So hybrid would beat EV if the subsidy on EVs is further reduced by the government.
And I think you already made the point that the cost of changing the battery for a hybrid vehicle is cheaper than what it would be for a full EV vehicle, and also the life is longer.
Yes, sir. Also, sir, electric vehicles need to be charged. It cannot be run without a charging. But whereas in hybrid, we have various type of hybrid. Like in plug-in hybrid, you need to charge the vehicle
Yeah.
also, and you need to fill in the gasoline. But there are other hybrid engines which do not even need to be charged. When we brake the vehicle, the excess power converts into the battery. So that way, the customer doesn't even need to charge the battery for the
To
vehicle.
regenerative braking.
Yes, sir, exactly.
Yeah. Good. Excellent presentation. I like the way you defended your business plan also. Good. All the best to your team. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All
Can
the
I
best.
add one more point, sir?
Yeah.
Sir, we understand that the world sees EV as the way beyond, and we are not denying that EV cannot be the way beyond. Our statement is just that for the company they should, in the short term, go for hybrid and then maybe go to electric vehicle if the market seems like favoring the EV. Also, sir, companies like Toyota, even they are considering that EV is not the way beyond. They are still making hybrid cars, and they are saying that some other sources will be better than electric vehicles. And besides Toyota, even luxury brands like Porsche believe that EV is not the way beyond.
So I would like to also add one thing before we finish. For a large amount of time, the whole world considered ice and ice. It is the internal combustion engine. But now the various alternatives have been drawn up. We have talked about lithium ion as well as the hydrogen battery, but there's also a research been going on towards sodium ion batteries. Even Reliance has contributed a substantial amount towards that research. So now we can see that we have various alternatives. Since green mobility is just entering into the market, we don't think it should allocate a large amount towards an industry that may not have a future if there is other promising ventures like green hydrogen. So for the next substantial period of time, we believe a hybrid cars can bring the return with while mitigating risk.
Good point. Yeah. Also think about it from a point of view of environmental sustainability. If you still charging your cars with coal-fired thermal plants, then it's not like entirely environmentally sustainable. I think the full cycle should go where you charge your car with renewable energy, but I think that's a long way off. Right. So thank you very much, and all the best to you.
We now have a special education AV from Aditya Birla Sun Life
an investor education and awareness initiative of Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
So today we'll be starting with our presentation. I'll quickly introduce our team. So my name is Apsara and we have two other team members, Priyanshi and Shreya. So we are team C and today we'll be presenting on should green mobility India enter the electrical vehicle segment. So the objective of the presentation would be to understand the market dynamics and market readiness for the EV, to explore the different types of EV, to understand the cost benefit, and lastly, we'll provide a recommendation for the further course of action. Also, looking at the current industry analysis, currently the electrical vehicle is around 4% of all the passenger vehicles that are sold currently in India. However, the country has set an ambitious target of selling around 20 million EVs by the year 2030. In order to achieve this target, the passenger vehicle market for EVs will have to grow for just about 0.55 lakhs in 2023 to 14 lakhs in 2030, which is around 28% or like 28-fold increase in a span of 6 years. Now, talking about the factors that are influencing the EV adoption, the challenges that we might face, firstly would be charging infrastructure. So India currently has 9,000 public charging stations, which is significantly lower than the projected demands for electronic vehicles. Another challenge that we could face is the cost. So the cost of the electrical vehicles is 20 to 50% more than the traditional vehicles, which are comparatively expensive. Next would be the government policies. The government provides subsidies and policies like FAME2, production-linked incentives, etc. All these play a significant role in determining the cost of the vehicles. Next would be consumer preference. So the consumer prefer pure electric cars with a max range per charge of 250 kilometers, or hybrid. It is still very uncertain because the hybrid cars don't necessarily give a lot of mileage. So talking about the customer preference and the trend, again, the first foremost difficulty that we might face is the price affordability. Since the EV vehicles would be comparatively costlier as compared to the traditional cars that are available in the market, consumers might have second doubts on purchasing such vehicles. Also, consumers would look up for options which are lower on the cost front and which would provide extended warranties. Next would be range and charging infrastructure. So range anxiety, the fear of running out of charge before reaching the charging destination, would be one of the major reasons why customers would be skeptical about opting for electronic vehicles. Another would be with development of the fast charging options and convenient charging locations, especially in cities and highways. There's a scope of growth. However, the infrastructure development in the rural areas would be a challenge that might be faced by a lot of people. Performance and features. While fuel efficiency is important, Indian customers also value performance and driving experience, and that would be something that would excite them towards electronic vehicles. Features like spacious infrastructure, advanced technology, and connectivity options could also lead the customers to prefer EVs. Lastly, environmental consciousness. A growing segment of customers are conscious about environment, and they would choose or prefer electronic vehicles in order to reduce emissions and sustainability benefits. So the next slides will be taken up by Shreya.
Good evening, sir. So here, the key factors that we would consider in terms of investment would be the battery replacement cost, environmental impact, and charging infrastructure progress. So when I say battery replacement cost, it is evident that 30% of the cost, around 25 to 30% of the original car cost would be incurred as a battery replacement cost once the battery is reached to its limited usage. Hence, this is a considerable amount, and people tend to dwell on the cost that they might incur back again even after the initial investment. So this might be one of the key factors that is playing around for the investment. Second is environmental impact. The boom is that, and EV vehicles is obviously reducing the emission of carbon dioxide in the landscape, and also the quality of the air is increasing day by day when EVs are used more. But there is also an attached responsibility when EVs are there, that the lithium battery ions are used, which for the production of it might again cause a sustainable damage to the substantial damage to the environment. Hence, there are two facets to it. EV can actually help reduce the environment, help reduce pollution in the environment, as well as sometimes be a major reason for the environmental pollution as well. So we have to act upon it, look on how to reduce the impact. That is how one of the factors that we need to consider. Third is charging infrastructure progress. Just like Apsara mentioned, that the existing market in India, publicly available charging stations are around 9,000 operational charging points, which will substantially need to increase because the demand for EV vehicles, as per the government, has forecasted, is going to exponentially increase, and hence charging points for the same needs to be installed in every public sector so that the ease of access for the use should be enhanced. So the FAME 2 and FAME 3 schemes, they are kind of pointing or noting points on these issues that is persisting and kind of build on it. So FAME 3 is basically building on FAME 2 framework, where it was incentivizing people to buy EVs, and also for the producers of manufacturing EV vehicles, they used to give some kind of subsidies. But the long time question is how many years would the subsidy be in place, and if not, then the original cost will be has to be bared by the owner. So these are the questions that can come upon even in the government's rules and regulations or the subsidies that is given by the government. So this is also one of the key factors that we need to consider before entering the market. Sir, can you go to the next slide? Yeah, so there are three types of EV vehicles: hybrid electric vehicles, and mild hybrid electric vehicles. So the hybrid electric vehicles basically combines both the internal combustion engine power and the electrical power and runs on it. Like parallelly, they use this and they run on it. But electric vehicles are completely based on the electric ion battery that is installed. From that, the power is generated and the car runs through it. But hybrid electric vehicles, there is requirement of petroleum products or any internal combustion engine that uses this fuel. And then there's a electric battery through which there's electric motor running. So this is the hybrid electric vehicle. But mild electric vehicles comes in somewhere in between the ground, where it will not completely power the car through electric power, but it will provide minimal basic push or and some voltage to the components or parts of usage of the car that will be powered by electrics. That electric power that will be given by mild generators or mild batteries that we use in the cars. So these are the three different kinds of electric vehicles that can be produced. And for all of these, there is different types of charger. Like there are different connectors such as CCS, camera demo, and type 2 connectors. Now CCS is combined both of AC and DC current chargers, like it supports both of them. Hence they're little expensive in installing them and preparing an infrastructure for them. But CHAdeMO, CAMDO, this is purely of DC current. Now the charging will be increased, the efficiency of the charging will be increased when there's such connector, but the cost is comparatively higher compared to type 2, but lower compared to CCS. Hence, it depends on what is the usage and demand that we are looking at, and based on that, we can go ahead with this. And type 2 connectors are purely for AC current. So if it is like if you have to charge a station for overnight or a long duration, then these types of connectors are used and they are useful. It is not for a very powerful output, hence the cost for this would be reduced substantially, and it is less expensive compared to the other two. Investment requirements, when we see in an overall picture bird eye view, we can consider three major points: manufacturing plant, capacity choices, and licensing costs that can incur. So manufacturing plant, we will have to research and see what kind of land building construction site we would require to set up a plant in India, production equipments that would be required based on what type of vehicle we are producing, and testing facilities, because any manufactured car would go under testing, and we have to see what kind of testings we are going ahead with, and those testing facilities. Logistics infrastructure, again, how do we get this to market? How are we transporting all the routes, optimization and stuff? Now, capacity choices, product mix, small cars versus SUVs, hybrid versus electric. Like, we will have to choose our product mix, like what kind of hybrid cars will we do? And if we are going with hybrid cars, are we producing small cars or SUVs? And which is more in demand in the market? Like, if small cars are more in demand, we will maybe go more into small cars. So product mix, we will have to decide, and based on that, actually the plant also will impact, because the space required to manufacture a small car and SUV might differ, and hence the plant location and the plant dimension might also affect from this. Estimated production volume, market demand, economic trend, supply chain reliability. As I mentioned, what is the market demand is a first concern, as in what the customer is preferring, and what is the trend in the consumer preference, as in as where they're inclined to buy most of the cars that is on road. And economic trend is how economically the car sustains them. What is the return on value for them if they invest such amount of money? Now, what would be their return over a period of time, including the replacement cost and other factors that we discussed in the previous slide? So that would also be a factor that should be considered for capacity choices. Licensing cost, because when we enter into manufacturing domain, there are different certificates that license that we require to produce this, and one amongst them, extended producer responsibility. These kind of licensing cost will depend on the waste that we produce. So EPR basically tells us that for the amount of waste we produce, we will pay the relevant charges. So it may differ based on the capacity that we are producing. We may increase or decrease. All these options are there. So hence, based on our selection of these things, the licensing cost again will depend on that. These are some of the investment requirements that we are going through. Next slide. So, a competitive landscape in the existing market, we can already see Tata Motors having a very established market in EV, and we can see many of the cars of Tata being on road using this electric vehicle market. And Mahindra, MG Motor India, Hyundai Motor India. These are the existing players, and they've already previously established in the general car segment, that is the fuel car segment, and they have transitioned into EV market. There's already a brand that is established with them, and they're providing a newer option in an EV vehicle, and that trust and brand which is established already might also have a big impact on the landscape that we are looking at. Now, new entrants like Ather Energy, Ola Electric, Simple Energy, these are new entrants, but Ola Electric has already made its way through it. You can see in Ola apps where there is a Ola Electric feature where you can order that Ola Electric and you can use that Ola Electric. So they are promoting this through multiple channels. And Ather Energy also, you can see many of the Ather scooties on the road. Initially, in the starting of EV boom, there might not be those many EV vehicles, but now wherever you see there is an Ola Electric on road, that you can substantially notice every road, right? So that is the entry that they are seeing. So I guess there's existing players who are also giving a tough competition, but new entrants are also having a space where they can enter, and they're capturing the market on this. Next slides will be taken up by Priyanshi.
So now coming to our recommendation that what should green mobility do? So our recommendation would be that to enter the market, we should start up with going for a hybrid model where the car would have features of both fuel combustion as well as an EV. And for this, we have mapped some investment, revenue, and expenses that can be that are required to be incurred in the first year. So we have estimated a setup cost of 300 crores. Now this has been calculated with considering an estimation of 3,300 vehicles that would be demanded in the EV and hybrid sales. So considering this capacity of 3,300, we have budgeted a cost for 300 crores for setup. And for this, we would be using a type 2 AC charger. So as already explained by Shreya, the different kinds of chargers, we feel that because this model has a hybrid mode, that is, it also works on EV and fuel, leaving the car for overnight charging would be something that would be okay because there is also an option to fall back on petrol. So thus, to manage the cost of the car, we can use a type 2 charger here, and because those are priced slightly lesser than the other chargers, as already explained. So we've considered uh, picking an A2 type charger. And apart from that, we also would incur cost of setting up a charging facility, which is 8 lakh rupees for one facility. And this would be done in the premises where our manufacturing would be set up. So we have thought of starting off with 10 charging facilities to begin with, and then increase capacity as and when our demand increases. Further, we will also be requiring to budget some amount for promotion because it's a new brand, so a good substantial amount would go into that, and hence the entire cost we have taken it to be 300 crores. Now, in terms of revenue, as per the figures that were provided in the case study, we have projected that we would have a demand for 3,300 units of a hybrid model in 1 year, and we have priced it at 20 lakhs, which is considering what the competition has priced its products at. And so we have projected a revenue of 660 crores. And apart from that, we would also be setting up some charging facilities. This will help us in two ways. Firstly, it will bring us revenue because the cars which are already in operation can use these facilities. Also, it will help us advertise green mobility. So when the charging station would have a brand value, a brand image, or logos or anything of green mobility, it will also act as a tool for promoting that brand. And lastly, we will also have some expenses, additional expenses. And so for accounting for everything, accounting for all of it, we have set up a budget of 300 crores to begin with. So further, why did we choose a hybrid model over an EV? So firstly, the first and foremost thing is customer trust. There is already a trust in the existing vehicles which are there, and most vehicles which are running in the market with our competitors are running in a hybrid model. So this will help us enter the market easily. So as green mobility is starting off with a hybrid model will allow them to showcase its versatility in terms of running a combustion engine as well as EV. And because there is an already established market and it is a familiar territory for the customers, it will be easy to build a brand image for our new brand. And further, hybrid models do have a combination of fuel efficiency and performance. So this will help us to kickstart in producing our own vehicles. Further, to start off, there are some competitive strategies that we should concentrate on. So firstly would be product differentiation. As there are currently certain cars which are already running, which are based on hybrid or EV models, we can get into personalization or customization at an affordable price. So this will let the brand develop an image of its own and also attract more customers. Further, building, as I already mentioned, building charging infrastructure will give the brand a representation of its own and will act as a promotion tool. Further, we would also have to set up a special R&D department that will enable the brand to continuously work on technology and innovation and be better and do better than its competitors and eventually develop a competitive advantage. And branding and marketing will also be a new way which will be required to establish a presence in the market. So just concluding the entire presentation. So we would like green mobility to go ahead with starting off with a hybrid model because it would be easy to enter the market as there is already a proven track record. The customers are already familiar in this territory, and it will help us balance the cost benefit ratio as well. So all in all, green mobility can go ahead with a hybrid model. Thank you.
So it was a very detailed presentation. I really appreciate your industry analysis. You devoted a lot of time to your industry analysis, and most of the points you kind of got it very proximately right. Now, I was wondering why you didn't have. You did show an investment in the first year and your revenue projection in the first year, but wondering why you didn't show a case. You build your financial statements more and didn't showcase your case well with your financial statements. So why was that not given as much thought as your industry analysis? Or would you like to say, I mean, how you would want to plan over the next 4 or 5 years?
Yes, ma'am. So we would be requiring a lot of external data as well. So we were trying to work on that. And like Priyanshi said, the first year would be more of an investment, and we would have like lower payback period. Like the payback period would be larger because in the first initial few years, we would be investing more and the returns would be less. But since we are still working on collecting the data, were not able to have like a detailed plan.
Okay. And the other question was on, see, you were again reflecting more than once on you're using charging stations for branding purposes, or it will give you visibility and things like that. Now, do you think that that is the only, of course, you have set aside something for promotions, or you do want to set aside some amount for promotions, but is investing in charging stations, the economics of investing in charging stations versus a payoff from a charging station supporting you, or is it costing you too much in the name of brand building? That how would you I mean, how do you look at it? Like, so because of course there are plenty of ways to do promotions the traditional way the industry has been doing, and there are also other options for charging because there are independent power companies, other entities which are tying up with your petrol pumps coming out with charging. So why would you want to use this as a route for branding? And have you worked out the cost benefit analysis here?
Ma'am, so the initial suggestion was to start off. This will not be an all India level at the current moment, not in the first year, but this was a suggestion that could happen over a period of time, say after 4 years, once we have recovered the initial investment that we have made. And as I was researching, I had come across an article which talked about how this has been a strategy which has been used by lots of competitors in the market. So maybe this cannot happen in the first year because it is, as you mentioned, it is an expensive affair. But eventually, over say 4 or 5 years, once our initial investment has been recovered, this can be one of the channels of promoting the brand.
Okay, so primary promotions, then what will be your route to? How would you, because there are established people like how you mentioned, there is Tata Motors, there is, your MG, lot of established brands have their hybrids. So, or Mahindras, they have their hybrids, they have their EVs as well. So, what would be your promotion strategy? Are you going to follow the same path, or are you going to try out something different? And what will it be if it's different?
So, ma'am, one of the things which we also mentioned was customizing the vehicle. So, in terms of maybe features inside the vehicle or the look of the vehicle, maybe different colors or different patterns or any customization. So, playing on this USP, we could concentrate on using channels like TV commercials and billboards and advertising, which is already done in the market. But our USP will allow us to stand apart from whatever is existing in the market. So I do not have a definite numbers as to what amount would be required for the promotional strategy, but the channels could be billboards which are there on the highways and at places where there are lot of traffic and lot of people, malls, and so billboards would be the first channel, and again TV commercials would be the other channel, because maximum number of our target audience which would eventually buy our car is someone who would view TV shows and TV channels.
No, why not online or digital marketing? Because that's the future, isn't it?
It is, ma'am, but I suppose the target audience, if we have to pick, are people who are above the age of 35 who have that spending capacity. So if we look at only social media or anything like that, we will not be able to reach the right target market if we concentrate only on digital channels. So it can be one of the channels, but I think the major would be on billboards and TV commercials.
No, but why are you targeting people over 35? Youngsters are not environmentally conscious.
They add, but they don't have the spending capacity to buy an EV because it is
Banks are not giving loans because I think even people over 35 take loans only and buy cars.
But majority of the people would be above the age of 35.
So
Could
you
I
feel
pitch in?
youngsters won't be able to spend?
Could I pitch in one point, ma'am?
Yes, please.
Ma'am, like she mentioned, that could be one point. But again, let's see. The EV market we are targeting is for cars. How many youngster would want initially at the age of 25 would want a car? They would preferably go to a two-wheeler. They would start out with a two-wheeler and then transition into a car. So ideally, let's keep 30 also. So Instagram would not be a right place for us to target this kind of segment. And even people who would want to buy such a vehicle would not really see it on Instagram and come to a store. They would want to, first of all, they would want to try out and see the features and see all the benefits that they are getting from that. So I guess adding on to Priyanshi's point, this might be one of the point where we are not actively targeting on Instagram. That might be a subtle channel as well.
Okay. Okay, sure. Yeah, I leave it to the other judges.
Yeah, Lalit, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I like all the entire girl gang. So beautiful presentation, and you really it was a really structured one. So my queries around the way you started, you presented the numbers that 20 million EVs are going to be touch. I mean, the demand is going to surge over a period of time, and then you are recommending hybrid. So I didn't get that connect. Why when you are looking at that, there is a demand going to go up, and especially the Gen Z and millennials, they are going to prefer EVs, and especially these new age startups who become unicorns now. They have launched EV two-wheelers. So why would a new age startup like you, a new age company like yours, would go that defensive and not for EVs?
Also, I would take up that question. Looking at India on like a larger scale, like our infrastructure is still not developed. So to introduce directly electric vehicles would cause a lot of issues. Especially, it would work seemingly well in the metro cities, but when it comes to the rural areas, we'll have a lot of problems. Again, investment would be highly large in setting up the charging stations, and to make everybody used to working around electrical vehicles. So introducing hybrid, getting people used to like running electronic vehicles, and slowly we can introduce like a complete electronic vehicles. But for the startup, and also I feel like the Indian market is little conservative when it comes to spending. So to give a hybrid model would be, we can target like a larger audience.
Okay. Second question is regarding cost. So you have kept a cost of say 20 lakhs for this particular vehicle, which you plan to produce. And at the same time, on a differentiator, you have mentioned customization. So don't you think, customizing a vehicle, which needs a lot of, work, and there are many things which are fixed in nature. on the design part and the structure part. Don't you think customizing passenger vehicle will not be easy, and it will be like cost sensitive? It will increase the cost per vehicle, because if you provide that option to customer, they will definitely go for customized versions.
So when it comes to customization, we meant not like personal customization, like not on an individual level basis. We thought more towards customizing customizing in the sense for like a larger audience, like differentiate, because most of the cars have a similar kind of structure or very basic color. So we could provide a different edge to the model of the car, but not on like a personal individual level basis, customized for like a larger group.
So more variants, you can say,
Yeah, more variants.
Instead of customization, right?
Yes.
Because once you say customization, then I will definitely demand, from my side as a consumer. Okay. So thank you. That's it from my side.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, good presentation, the three of you. Though I wish you had plunged straight into the nitty-gritty of what you as a consultant company had to provide to green mobility, because uh, obviously as a company which is in that space will already have uh, good knowledge of the industry, and sort of explaining a lot of the industry points, it would have been useful if it gone plunged straight into the heart of the case rather than repeat some of the case points. I mean, you can keep it in mind when you make a next presentation that see, if we are the jury and we are green mobility, we have presented the case, the business problem to you, and so obviously we are already aware of what the market is, so there is no need to go into explaining all that to us. You could just plunge straight into the case. So I see that you invested, like what even Vardhani was asking you, putting a lot of money into the charging infrastructure, and things are changing so fast in terms of battery technologies and what charging infrastructure will be needed. So I don't know whether it makes sense to put so much money into a charging infrastructure. Maybe leave that to either the biggies in the space or to public charging infrastructure is my point. What do you have to say to that? Any views on that? I mean, do you need to really invest so much money, company money into charging infrastructure when things are changing so fast, and the you can never match what say the oil marketing companies are doing in terms of investing in public infrastructure.
Yes, sir. So, like Priyanshi said, we wouldn't be investing on charging infrastructure during our initial phase of launching. We would do that, however, after a couple of years, once we get like a little return on investment, that's when we'll be using charging stations as a part of our branding, but not during the initial stages. We would refrain from investing high amounts on charging stations, and we would rely on like external the public companies and the biggies, like you said.
And you would recommend the hybrid model as the ideal one for the company to get into.
Yes, sir.
And hybrid also, the different versions. So what would you recommend? Fully hybrid, plug-in hybrids, or
So the hybrids are essentially, Priyanshi was talking about, would be plug-in hybrid, wherein the car runs on the electric capacity first, and when the charge runs out, maybe it can switch into petroleum products like the fuel based car that would run up.
though If you have a fully hybrid, then it will just charge the car by itself through regenerative braking and stuff like that. So you don't really need to depend on charging infrastructure. I mean, we
But
thought
then
about
again,
that.
our cost would increase, right, sir? If we go for a fully hybrid, our manufacturing cost would increase. So, in terms of that, a
It's a trade-off.
plug-in model,
Trade-off. Okay,
yes, sir.
good. Right. Right. Good presentation. No, good effort. So
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you all very much, and all the best.
We now have a special education AV from Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund.
Benefits of SIP, STP, SWP. Win with SIP. This is Sid. He recently started working and wishes to invest his money in the stock markets. But his salary isn't much and he has only a small sum of money left to invest every month. While he was contemplating on what he could do, his elder sister Reena came to his rescue. An avid investor herself, Reena introduced him to the magic trio of SIP, STP, SWP.
Don't worry, you don't really need a large amount to start investing. You can invest as little as 500 rupees weekly, monthly or quarterly using SIP, that is Systematic Investment Plan in mutual funds. And before you wonder how it could help, let me tell you, a SIP has many advantages. 1. It lets you start small. And when you invest every month, you average your purchasing cost. So, you needn't worry about timing the market. For example, let's assume you invest 500 rupees every month. Given the market volatility, the cost of purchasing a unit of a mutual fund will change every month. Say, in the first month, you may get 40 units for 500 rupees. In the second month, you may also get 25 units for the same amount and perhaps more in the next month, say 45 units. This difference in price averages out over time, giving you the best possible price per unit over time. 2. You not only make your money work, you also make time work in your favor by starting to invest sooner than later. 3. You also benefit from the power of compounding by reinvesting the profits earned from your investments in mutual funds. Let me explain. Suppose you invest 500 rupees per month for a year. In 12 months, you will have invested 6,000 rupees. Let's assume your money grows at 8% during the year. So, your investments will be worth 6,480 rupees at the end of year 1. Now, if you leave the entire amount invested in the fund and continue with your SIP, by the end of the second year, your investment would be 12,480 rupees. That is 6,480 rupees plus 6,000 rupees. But given the 8% returns, you would have earned a profit of 998.4 rupees. And this amount will continue to compound as long as you stay invested.
This is quite enlightening. But sis, I have a doubt. When I get a bonus at the end of the year, how do I invest it? I don't want to take the risk of timing the market.
I'm glad you are catching on, Sid. You just need to be smart with your investments. You can park your bonus in a low-risk debt or liquid fund initially, and then set up a STP, that is a systematic transfer plan, which will transfer fixed amounts from this scheme to other debt and equity schemes regularly and give you all the advantages of a SIP. So you don't have to worry about timing the market. And while the SIPs happen, your money isn't lying idle in your bank. It is earning interest in debt or liquid fund. And just like a SIP, STP allows you to set the duration of your investment period. For example, if you get a 50,000 bonus, you can choose to invest 5,000 in a single scheme or 1,000 in 5 different schemes over the next 10 months. You can make this choice based on what goal you wish to achieve.
You have a solution for everything. I have one more question though. I can keep my investments going every month, but how can I withdraw, say after 10 years, without the hassle of timing the markets?
Well, Sid, this one is easy too. Let's assume you are investing for your retirement funds. Once you retire, you can turn your SIP into a SWP, that is, a systematic withdrawal plan, and get a fixed income at regular intervals. So if you need 25,000 rupees per month to meet your expenses, you can set up the SWP to deposit 25,000 rupees into your bank account every month or 75,000 rupees every quarter. SWP gives you the flexibility to choose. A SWP not only aims to give you protection against market volatility, it keeps your money working for you. So, you see, when you SIP, STP or SWP, you aim to win on multiple levels, today as well as tomorrow.
An investor education and awareness initiative of Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Very good evening to everyone. My name is Prachisha and this is my colleague Chaitanya Hegde. And we'll be presenting our analysis on the four-wheeler industry in the Indian context, especially for the EVs and the hybrid four-wheelers. So our client Green Mobility India Private Limited wants to start their business in the electric vehicle sector in India, and uh, they are a subsidiary of a renewable giant present globally. So they want to know whether to enter the EV sector directly or enter the hybrid sector or enter both or either both of them. So we have done an analysis and study and we'll be presenting the same. Next slide. So now, looking at the Indian electric and hybrid passenger vehicle market scenario, although there is a lot of news going on regarding how the EV sector is going to boom in India, however, the actual facts and figures are a bit different. When we look at the sales, although the sales have been increasing drastically from few years back, the sales are predominating, especially in the two-wheeler and the three-wheeler market segment, and the four-wheeler market segment is still catching up as of now. When we look at the different brands and the models that are present in the four-wheeler electric and the hybrid sector, we can see that there are around 34 battery-powered electric vehicle models in India and 13 hybrid models, out of which there are 18 brands in India present for the electric vehicles, and there are 7 brands present for hybrid vehicles. And still it is seen that as of financial year 2023, in the second quarter, the sales of hybrids has increased by 400% as compared to only 120% for EVs. So although sales is increasing, and although for sales for EVs have been increasing, and although there are a lot of variants and brands for EVs, more brands and models for EVs in India, they do not cater to the especially the value conscious Indian customer. We can look here in the graph that the price range of most of the cars, they are above 35 to 50 lakhs, which is very high as compared to what a typical or a normal Indian would want to buy. So even though studies have shown that adoption of EV is going to happen, then as you can look on the right side, of Bain and Co study has mentioned that by 2030, the penetration of this EV passenger vehicle sector, it will increase by 15 to 20%. But a lot of studies have also shown that for the thing to happen, there are a lot of factors that have to come in play. These factors include the variations or the accommodation, especially for the Indian infrastructure and the like the automation and everything. The basically all the technology that has to be present has to be very customized for the Indian customers. Now, this was another study that was done by Arthur D. Little, and they have mentioned that the EV passenger adoption is not gonna pace up as significantly as people are expecting it to be, and the adoption rate will be merely around 10% by 2030. And one other thing that was mentioned in the study was that the vehicle passengers passenger vehicles, especially the electric, they will be adopted mostly in the metro cities, and only 5% of the total cities in 2030 will be of passenger vehicles. Next slide. So what we suggest for Green Mobility India Private Limited is to go ahead with hybrids and the EV charging stations, and I'll be explaining the same now. So if you look at the EV sector, there are a lot of challenges I mentioned, especially in the city infrastructures. We do not have enough charging stations to take up even if the number of cars that are being sold are high, we don't have enough charging stations to make sure of that. Even the grid power is not enough to take up a load when a lot of vehicles are present in the city. So if we look at the overall four-wheeler EV industry, the market rivalry seems medium. As seen in the previous slide, Tata has the highest number of market cap as of now. And again, barriers to entry, because this sector requires lots of infrastructure and capital requirements. So the barrier to entry is medium. And we look at the substitutes as compared to four-wheeler cars. There are a lot of substitutes, especially when it comes to a country like India, where people still prefer the internal combustion engine vehicles or two-wheelers. So the threat from substitutes is also very high. Now coming to the bargaining power of buyers, although switching costs for buyers will be high, however, they have a lot of options in their hand. So in a way, bargaining power of the buyers also ranging from medium to high. And next, coming to the bargaining power of supplier. So if we look in Indian market, especially for the electric vehicles, the battery, which is the main component, and which contributes mostly to 24% of the cost as per a study in 2019, the most of the batteries in India is imported from China and Japan. So we are very much dependent on them to make batteries for our supply. And even looking at the challenges, as I mentioned, the price is very high, the power crisis is there, the infrastructure has to change, and even the e-waste management is not in place. Although government has initiated policies to take that up, from FAME 1 we have reached to FAME 2, which is gonna same which is as we can look here in the graph, that although government has made subsidies, however they are not being utilized efficiently, and there is no clarity if the FAME 3 subsidy, how fast it will come and how will it cater to the required requirements, which will match the requirements of the consumers and as the manufacturers as well. So as of now, we feel that hybrids is the way to go ahead, and the EV charging station market is also booming. And we'll explain the reason for hybrids further by talking about how the consumer preference and the life cycle assessment of the same. Next slide. So as per a study conducted by Deloitte, out of the number of people who were asked whether they'll prefer a petrol diesel car or a hybrid or a electric car, in 2021 around 21% mentioned that they will prefer buying a hybrid car. In 2022 the person came to 20. However, the people wanting to buy electric car increased from 5 to 8. But then we also need to look in that the number of people, the percentage of people wanting to buy hybrid and plug-in hybrids is far greater as compared to the electric vehicles. And another study was conducted wherein it was found that even still 53% of people in India, they prefer internal combustion engine cars, 30% hybrids, and only 17% are interested in EVs. A study also mentioned that people in India, 77% in India, they are expecting to pay less than 25 lakhs for the next vehicle. And as we saw in the earlier slide, the range or the amount that most of the cars in, there are very less variations and options available. So for now, given the infrastructure and the consumer preference, hybrid has a much more market as compared to electric vehicles. So first issue that the customers usually face is the range and the charging anxiety. There are very few number of charging stations available in the country, and most of the customers, they prefer having home charging option. So that home charging option is going to take a lot of time to actually show up, because there is a lot of permissions and requirements that have to be done for the same. Second is, people are also very much, in the Indian customer especially, they are very much not sure about the battery safety technology that is being used, especially in EV vehicles. However, when we look at the hybrid vehicles, it is the battery that is being used is very small as compared to a high as compared to an electric car, and affordability also. We can see that the hybrid cars in a way are more affordable and more convenient, because hybrid cars, they don't need charging stations, so there is no case of range and charging anxiety. So in that way, in the coming 5 years, we feel that hybrid has a much more wider scope for Indian market as compared to EV vehicles. Next slide. Now, also looking at the cradle to grave impact of battery electric vehicles as compared to hybrids and your internal combustion engines, a lot of studies have been done in the Indian context. So when we look at the cradle to grave LCA, it actually tells about how is the a product impacting the environmental footprint, right from the extraction of the raw materials that are being used to the entire waste disposable of that product. So when we look here, this was a study which was done by IIT Kanpur, wherein we had done the life cycle assessment analysis of battery electric vehicles, hybrid electric vehicles, and internal combustion vehicles in the Indian context, where they had taken two sets of cars. One was those foreign companies manufactured vehicles, and another was the Indian companies manufactured vehicles. And similar, all the two sets had three cars which were of similar features, and then a cradle to grave life cycle assessment was done for them. The study very clearly showed that the greenhouse gas emissions that come out of this of the hybrid vehicles, they are much lower as compared to electric vehicles. And similarly, for I mean both the sets, the difference is very fast. So the main reason for this is that in India, still 70% of the energy that is generated, electricity that is generated, it comes from burning of coal. So the irony is, although electric vehicles are promoting sustainability, but the power that is coming to charge those vehicles is coming from coal. Be sure about the study, they had also conducted a sensitivity analysis, wherein they had kept four factors. First was the one-time battery replacement during its lifetime, region-wise difference, different fuel blends were taken, and distance traveled by the vehicle was also taken in mind. And even after that, also it was very clearly shown that hybrid vehicles, they are more they are much more better for the environment as compared to electric vehicles, which is in a way irony to what is being promoted now. Because if we look at the taxes that are being charged for electric vehicle and hybrid vehicle, although same three scheme that was kept in mind, for electric vehicles only the tax subsidy, the tax charge is 5%, whereas for the hybrid vehicles is still 45%. But if you look at the overall picture, it's seen that although the tax is higher, the units sold for hybrid vehicles are greater as compared to the units that are being sold for electric vehicles. Next slide. So now Chaitanya
taking
will
it
be
from
talking.
here. Yes. So yes, in EV charging infrastructure in India still has a long way to go. If you look at the figure at your left, you will see that these are the current number of charging stations in India. That is as of December 12, 2023. If you look at it carefully, you will notice that Maharashtra has the highest with 2,500 plus charging stations, and Delhi has the second highest with 1,800 plus stations. Now, remember, these are just public charging stations. These are not actually including home charging stations as well. Overall, India has a ratio of one charging station for every 135 EV vehicles, which might seem like a good number. But as I told you, that is the overall average for the country. In some states, the situation is very bad. For example, if you look at UP, UP is a state which has nearly 450,000 EV vehicles, but there are only 486 EV stations, which means there is one station for every 926 vehicles, which is very huge and very bad when you compare it to the global average of 6 stations for every 20 vehicles. So obviously now the main part of a EV car industry to grow is to make sure that there are even enough charging stations, because that is one of the huge reasons why people are a bit afraid, because whenever we set out in a petrol car, we know that petrol bunks are lined up on every nook and corner of the country, but that is not true for EV stations. We will have to plan our route accordingly when we're going on a trip or a long trip, and we'll have to see where we'll find the charge, what amount of time will it take to charge my vehicle up, and also there is a range anxiety that comes in because EV in the current stage, they cannot cross more than 250 to 300 kilometers. What about after that? They will have to stop. They'll have to stop in a place where there is, EV charging infrastructure available. So we looked at this, and also there is one more important thing. India has the EV 30 at 30 vision, which means 30% of the Indian car sales by 2030 should be EVs. And now, in order to reach that, we have to make sure that more people are buying EVs. And if we do not, promote that buying EV culture, then India will never reach that target. Even at the current rate, with India building charging stations, they will still fall 40% below the average, below the target that they have set for 2030. So I think we as Green Mobility as a company should focus on keeping the nation's interest also in its mind. They should also focus on improving the charging infrastructure. So what we did is we did a quota analysis of the charging infrastructure industry, and we did find that the existing firms, the rivalry is less because there are not a lot, not many people, not many companies who are currently in the charging infrastructure. The opportunity for the new entrants is high because it is booming now, and government subsidies are also increasing now. Government has started, people are actually promoting battery charging as a whole. So we think that EV charging infrastructure should be an important part of our agenda as well, along with. To prove that, I'll go on to the next slide, where we have done the forecast for the next 5 years. Now, if you look at this, before I look at this table, we did scour the internet for sources. We did speak to some of the people in the industry who have relevant work experience, nearly 10 to 11 years as well. And so what we have done is we have basically divided this into three phases: phase one, phase two, and phase three. That is the 5-year plan for the company as such. Now, you will notice that I have only taken hybrid vehicles and not EV vehicles because there's a reason for that. FAME 2 subsidies are ending in March 2024, and we don't know yet about FAME 3 subsidies. So we want to see and assess and gauge the EV market, before we actually go into it. So we are keeping EV on a hold for now. So we'll just focus on the hybrid vehicles. And we have taken both petrol hybrid and diesel hybrid vehicles because those are the two variants that India currently sells. And this includes, and we are talking about the strong hybrids here, not the weak hybrids or the mild hybrids. Initially, yes, you'll also see like this is the same format which was given to us in the case study as well, but we have made tiny tweaks here and there. If you see in the table, there are 4 different types of stations available. There's like station 1, type 1, type 2, type 3, and type 4. Now you wonder what that is. India, as you know, is a very geographically diverse country. So not every place has enough, not a space to actually accommodate a huge station. We need to make sure that petrol bunks are anywhere, everywhere, but we have to make sure that EV also reaches those parts as well. So we have made sure that there are different configurations in the stations as well, which can charge to different needs of that particular area. And we have taken basically 2 chargers, Bharat DC 001 and CCS. And why have we taken that? Bharat DC 001 is the current standard that Indian government is promoting, and majority of the cars, including the Tatas, focus on that and they charge the vehicles on that. However, it's a bit of a slow charging. It is not as fast as other chargers that are currently available in the world. What the global standard is becoming is the CCS, that is the combined charging system, and that is something which India is looking to implement in the upcoming years as well. So we decided that we should also move in with the global trends and try to make sure that we implement that. Now when we start off any company, obviously there's a basic investment that we need to do for a manufacturing unit to be put in. And when we looked around, we saw that nearly 800 to 1,100 crores is needed for a company that can produce up to 5,000 units. So we decided to phase that out into 800 crores in the first year and 500 crores in the second year, and then so on and so forth. And all of this, we have also considered 2 main important points. That is the cost of the diesel hybrid cars and the petrol hybrid cars. According to the case study that was given to us, the hybrid cars cost is 19.5 lakhs. We have made sure that, if we as a company can do something to reduce that a bit, petrol hybrid cars will cost around 18.5 lakhs, and diesel hybrid cars will cost around 21 lakhs, because that is the difference between petrol and diesel cars. Diesel cars are a bit more on the higher end because of the less amount of fuel fuel price that they have. So when we did this whole forecasting, now mind you, this forecasting was done on the basis of the number of vehicles that were sold in every year, and this was from the official government verified data. So there is a website called the Vahan Dashboard, which has the registration of all the vehicles that they have sold. We extrapolated it from 4 or 5 years back, and we ensured that same extrapolation, that same growth is shown in in our Excel sheet as well. Now, when we looked at this, obviously, in the phase one, which is the nascent stage where we are just growing, the payback period is very low. It is in negative actually, which means that the revenues are not enough to cover the expenses or the investment that we are putting in. But as you look ahead, if in phase two we get a bit better because our revenues are increasing because of the charging stations as well as the increase in the cars production as well. And in the last, and when we move into phase three, we will be much in a much more better position than we were in phase one. And in year one, we have just decided not to manufacture any cars because that is the year where we will try to promote, promote more about us as a company because we are a new entrant. We might be a subsidiary of a renewable giant, but we're still a new entrant in the automobile industry. So we want to build that curiosity. We want to build concept cars, try to gauge in the public reactions and then start building on from year two. So this is the basic forecasting that we have done. And with this, we will conclude in a very short way. First thing is EV charging infra. Yes, it is growing. It is in fact growing pretty well. In March 2023, there were nearly 5,346 stations. In December, it's already reached 10,846. And by March 2024, they're aiming at 14,000 charging stations. This is a good thing. And the Indian government has also ensured that at least 30% of all the public companies like Indian Oil, Bharat Petroleum, and Hindustan Petroleum have at least one EV charging station in their petrol bunks as well. So that is a very good start. With all these, subsidies that are coming in, even the GST rates have fallen from 18% to 5% on EV charging stations, and there are planned subsidies of more than $136 million for setting up the charging stations by the government of India. Now, all of this are for the EV charging infrastructure, but it is the battery industry which is falling short. India is still heavily reliant on other countries for our battery needs, and we have to make sure that the OEMs start manufacturing themselves so that we can meet our own demands if in case there is a global meltdown. And obviously, as mentioned by Prachi, in a study conducted by IIT Kanpur, we did see that hybrids is actually the most economical powertrain option among Indian brand vehicles if similar subsidies are applied to BEVs and HEVs. Currently, even hybrids are being sold more than EVs in spite of them being on the higher side of the GST bracket. They are taking more than 45. They've taken 45% of the GST, and EVs take only 5%. But still, they are more sold because Indians find it more easier to handle a hybrid car than an EV car. And currently, 73% of India's requirement come from coal. Now, this has stayed like this for from the past 6 years. It has never gone below 70. Coal has been the number one choice for charging up at least more than 3/4 of India. And we can say for sure that will be also the trend for the charging stations as well, because this coal will be used to charge the stations as well. So this begs the question: is it really sustainable or not? Then fourth one is obviously with more than 53% Indians still believing in IC engines, EVs have a long way to go. Yes, there are government policies. Yes, there are government subsidies, but government has made it strict. They have strictly said that these subsidies and policies will only be there till to give the push to the EV industry. They won't stay here forever. So we'll have to see what happens when these subsidies are not here. Do people really make that choice or not? And keeping these points in mind, it is highly advised that India smoothly transitions from the IC to EV. But how will they do that? They will reach the middle ground by hybrid, because hybrid is a combination of both of them. And that transition will be very useful for us as we go into the new age of reaching EV, India's vision of EV 30 at 30 as well. So with this, we conclude our presentation. Thank you so much.
So Prachi and Chaitanya, very comprehensive and well understood presentation, I should say. Okay, so you made your case, 2 or 3 points from the slides that you showed. Number one, somewhere you made a point saying battery costs are going up since hybrids use a quarter of the batteries or something, and then hybrids make a better case. So the whole premise of battery costs going up, where did you get it from?
Chaitanya, can you please share the presentation?
Maybe in the earlier slides, I guess. So
yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Just give me 1 second.
Because even if you Google, you will find that battery costs are coming down and not going up.
The previous
Yes, hybrids is a fifth to a quarter of the batteries needed for EVs, meaning they're less affected by the rising price of power packs. Is this the point you're talking about now?
Yes, that's right.
Sure. So,
what is
yeah, Prachi, please go ahead.
So what we meant by this particular thing was that in the context of the battery that is being used for hybrids and for
1 second,
electric
you can stop sharing so that all of us can see you. Yeah. 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 Go ahead, please.
Yeah. So what I meant was, what from the studies that we have taken when we compare hybrids and EVs, because hybrid has both electric, batteries in them, especially, and as well fuel is also involved. So in that context, the pricing of hybrid cars is a bit less as compared to EV cars because the battery size is smaller, and also if we look. The major contribution for a EV car comes from the battery, and the major reason for that also is because it's getting imported from outside the country. Like there are few happenings, and Indian made batteries are being made. However, majorly we are importing batteries from outside of India. So in that context, we meant that hybrid cars, because they are smaller in size, and if we look at the overall costing structure, they cost lesser as compared to an EV battery. In that context, we meant that hybrid cars are better than.
Oh, okay. So you meant relatively it's not about the absolute price of batteries, but relatively batteries that go into hybrids, you feel they work out cheaper. Okay.
Yes,
And it's not entirely imported also. You have a government's production link incentive scheme, and the lot of Indian companies are setting up big battery manufacturing units and all that. So okay, so you came up in the first 5 years that you presented in the business plan, your focus is not going to be on EVs. That's what you've said. But if
Yes,
I
ma'am.
see, I have been wondering from the beginning on this point. So why would you want to combine your manufacture of batteries with the chargers? Is it like some kind of public service that you want to do by combining investments in charging infrastructure? I mean, I don't get it because you're not having uh, anything paying you off well from, even if you see your own projections. Year one investment in charging is 6 crores. Was it in crores? And
Yes, ma'am.
your revenue is 3. Year two, 8, revenue 7. Year 3, 24, revenue 20. And the last year also, you're investing still 199 crores in charging infra, but your revenue from infra is 174 crores. So, the cost and the revenue part doesn't work out well. So, what is the logic for this?
Yes, ma'am. So the logic here is obviously, as we told, we have to make sure that India as a country also develops well. So you can say it's kind of like a public service, yes, but EV charging infrastructure, this is just a projection overall. When you go ahead, it will pay off in the long run because once you set up a charging infrastructure, it doesn't take it goes on for a very long period of time. It doesn't degrade suddenly. So we are just trying to imprint have a foothold in the EV charging infrastructure so that we know that we are open to ideas. We are open to the idea of EV as a company, but we are not sure of manufacturing right now because we feel even if we are manufacturing EVs right now, we find it will be much more it will be not more profitable for us than charging stations. So that's the whole idea. We want to eventually, yes, we will look out for EVs as we have mentioned several times in the presentation. But for the initial 5 to 6 years, we will not look at that. We will want to increase the infrastructure because only when the infrastructure is increasing, the market will also expand. And when the market expands, then we can have we can also join in on the market and then try to grab a market share as well.
Okay, see, but as a business proposition, would you kind of approach it like this, saying we will develop charging infrastructure and in future we'll contribute to extending the network of charging infrastructure and then we will think of EVs. So if it is not your core business, why don't you probably spend on research and development on EVs, come out with the cheaper EVs? Because as your earlier slide said, you had EVs up to 1 crore, isn't it? So that is what your bar graph was showing. So why don't you see, if you think EV option is still open for you beyond the 5 years, isn't investing in some R&D on the EV side or exploring how to manufacture EVs more a viable thing to do? Because auto manufacturing is your core business. Why would you want to do a very small investment in charging infrastructure which is not paying you back also?
To be really frank, ma'am, when we looked at it as a company perspective, we found out that hybrid is the main focus as of now, and we wanted to make sure that we put in all our resources into hybrid as for the next, at least for the next 10 years, I must say, because hybrid is increasing, and we didn't find the same amount of increase in EVs. So that's the reason we didn't want to focus on two things, both hybrids and EVs. We want to focus on one thing.
No, but you're
And
giving me a manufacturing plan for EVs, for hybrids. The EV research can be at the back end, isn't it? That wouldn't be defocusing.
Yes, it can be at the back end. So as our company, as you know, is a subsidiary of a renewable giant. So there will obviously be researching about it. The whole idea of making an EV charging infrastructure is to promote promote EV as a business as well. Yes, we will be thinking about doing R&D about it. We will have to go towards it, because if you look at the overall gist of the presentation, ma'am, we are promoting EV in a way. We are promoting EV. We are just not ready to jump into it, because we want to test the waters before we actually jump into it. And we will test the waters by making hybrid cars first, making the infrastructure available, so that people can kind of correlate with our name. Because when you increase in number, when you have a lot of students in number, they will see our brand, they will see our company name, they will relate with us. And then when we actually try to say that we will go in for this. And ma'am, there's also one more thing. When we are actually increasing the EV infrastructure, it means that we, like, in the future, we can also collaborate with people who are already in the industry as well. And they'll be able to see that we have actually contributed to the society in terms of EV, and they're actually serious about it. By just doing R&D, I think like R&D is a good part, but also like actually showing that we are serious about it is also important. So that's the reason.
Okay, so there are two ways in which you can do this. See, if you feel visibility is important, you can do promotions instead of setting up charging stations. If you feel contributing society is important, you can do CSR, corporate social responsibility expenses. I think this investment in charging with which is not paying you off is doesn't seem like a good idea, but you are defending it well anyway. So yeah, the other judges, yeah, those were my questions. You can take over.
Yeah, Lalit, go ahead.
Yeah. So thanks a lot, guys. Very well prepared and researched presentation. Congratulations for that. That has enhanced our knowledge also. My few queries, one is, of course, on the lines of Vardhani, that one side you're projecting, EV is going to grow, and another side, when you're projecting when you're providing your balance sheet or the projections for next 5 years, EV doesn't come, in your scheme of things. So one is that, as you also mentioned that India is growing, and there are commitments towards, bringing 30% of public transportation into EV category. So why don't you wish to ride on that, popularity? That is one. Second is, manufacturing hybrid is again, the kind of competition you are going to compete with. There are, big players in the industry. So I didn't find any differentiator, in your manufacturing, or what kind of product you would like to. So majority of time has gone into research and reasoning that why you would like to go for hybrid. What will you do with hybrid is kind of missing. That how will you differentiate? How will you compete with the competitor? I would say that the kind of study you did, I still guess that you went defensive in the end, going for hybrid just because you have seen some of the R&Ds or some of the surveys from IITs or other research companies, which has given you the past data or the current scenario. Maybe fail to project the future course of action, because the changing times, the changing technology, batteries. You have highlighted 5 challenges of EVs. Yes, but I think the focus could have been more on how to, as a country, how will you face or how will you overcome those challenges. So I would like your answers on that, please.
So from a business perspective, if we see, we saw overall trend that the sales of hybrids are much more as compared to these. And since our company is new to the industry, we thought that India still has although there are a lot of reports, a lot of schemes, and a lot of technology coming in. However, to actually achieve that goal in 2030, there are a lot of factors that have to play in mind. Like if you even go and ask to a normal Indian customer, when we come and ask about EVs, there are a lot of hiccups, especially when it comes to charging stations and everything. So for that purpose, we felt that India still has a long time to go till EVs become as can be comparable to their combustion engine cars. So for that time period, we think that the company should go ahead with hybrids, because first the charging anxiety that is, or the range anxiety that is usually happening with EVs, that won't happen with hybrid cars. And another is also if you look at the overall electricity infrastructure in our country, it's projected that like we had looked at another study which mentioned that even if that for that goal to be achieved, we do not have enough capability or power in our charging stations to support such kind of I mean, so many EV cars are coming in the country or on the road, then we do not have enough electricity supply to take up that charge. So even if as a company we start promoting or start manufacturing EVs, we are not sure if in the next 5 years we'll be able to sell them because of the reasons mentioned. However, if you like hybrids, and even if you look at the number of brands in overall, if you compare the EVs and the hybrid brands in India, there are like around 18 brands of EVs that are present in India, and there are only 7 brands of hybrids that are present in India. So in that context also, we felt that hybrids for the timing, or at least for the next 5 years, hybrids is the way to go for green mobility.
And to add on to that, sir, you did speak about a differentiator component in the hybrid vehicles. Now, if you look at the current hybrid vehicles, majority of them are placed very high in the bracket. Like just, I'm talking about the strong hybrids here, not the mild hybrids like Maruti Suzuki or the Toyota Hyryder. I'm not talking about those because they are very mild hybrids. Strong hybrids are wherein you can run for a particular distance using electric powertrains. So that's why our main differentiator will be the price. As I mentioned, it's 18.5 to 21 lakhs. Now, currently, we have also seen that the India's GDP is also growing, and the per capita income as well is growing. And with a very young population, people are getting into more cars. Now, we want them to get into cars that are less harmful to the environment. That's the first thing. So that's the reason, like, we have tried to keep it in a bracket which might be like, which I understand it might seem a bit on the exorbitant side, but it's not as exorbitant as pure EV cars, and it is on the similar lines as a bit high-end sedans as you see in the Indian market as well. And talking about you did talk about us defending the charging infrastructure. So we are a subsidiary of a sustainable company. The charging infrastructure that India currently has is being fueled by coal in itself. So we are trying to make sure that we use sustainable energy to actually fuel those charging stations, and that will try to bring in this culture, and we can try to initiate this into more number of people. More other companies can try new ways to find charging different kinds of charging apart from the fossil fuels that are currently being used in both cars as well as the charging station. So to go in the step by step ladder, first we will look at the charging infrastructure. We'll change that. We hope to change that with our renewable ways, and then we move on to cars and take the charge there. So that is the basic gist that we have taken in the studies.
Okay, and another thing is that you've been talking about range anxiety a lot. Have you not noticed the transition of fuel efficiency anxiety which Indians has overcome and now buying heavy SUV?
So can you please repeat?
So why don't you think that this range anxiety is also one of? Am I audible?
Okay. Yes, sir. Can you please repeat once again?
Yeah, am I audible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So I said that you were talking about range anxiety, about among the consumers right now. So have you not noticed that the transition from fuel efficiency anxiety, which has overcome by the consumers, and now they are buying heavy vehicles or SUV is kind of a trend now. So why don't you think that this range anxiety is also going to go over a period of time?
So
Sir,
for the rate, Prachi, go ahead.
Yeah, so when we talk about range anxiety in context of electric vehicles and internal combustion engine vehicles, it is very different. And in case of electric vehicles, they like after majorly after around 250 kilometers or something, they have to be charged. So when people are traveling on highways or something, they are sure to know that they'll find a petrol pump. But when it comes to EV stations, we do not have that infrastructure as of yet. So that is the main reason why we are talking about range anxiety in terms of electric vehicles. Like they are very, I feel that they are very different when it comes to a fuel driven car, like internal combustion engine cars, and compared to electric car. And also,
And
if even if they find the stations, the time that it takes to charge an EV, especially as Chaitanya mentioned that the Bharat range type of chargers which are there, is mostly present in India at the public charging station, they take a lot of time to charge. So even that time thing also comes into play when we talk about it. Like when you go to a petrol pump, you can easily fill up your tank in like 20-25 minutes max if there's a line. But when it comes to EV charging stations, the amount of time that will take to charge your car will be much greater. So that was the what I feel.
and so there's also one more point which I like to counter. You may seem like I'm coming back to the same point, but as you said, the range anxiety will go only when there are more EV stations, and that's our whole plan. So we want to increase EV stations so that there is less range anxiety.
Or maybe EVs, the batteries come with a higher range.
They might come, so they might come, but we have seen that from the past, I think 4 to 5 years now, people have been trying to increase the range of the batteries. They have been doing that, yes, but there is a certain limit to which the range can be done. Yes, the fast charging can be done because that is a very quick solution, but finding the solution for the to increase the battery range is something which we'll have to wait for. So that is something which we have got.
Sure. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. So, Prachi and Chaitanya, very, very detailed presentation, and I like the way you were defending your points and points you made. There's an expression which I'm sure you've heard of. It's called death by PowerPoint. So, I think you just packed too much detail into your PowerPoint. Your eyes will just glaze over. I think you should just give 1 or 2 points or 3 points max in a PowerPoint slide rather than packing with so much information that we as the we are from green mobility. I mean, how you won't have time to go through all these so much of detail in each PowerPoint slide. So I think you need to ease off there and just give a few points in the PowerPoint rather than packing it with so much detail.
Yes.
The other point is, I like the way you're defending that you get into charging infrastructure. But remember, green mobility is not in the league of a Tata Motors or an M&M or even any of the multinational auto majors. And
Yes.
oil marketing majors are also getting into EV charging infrastructure in a big way. And that itself is transforming itself, with while I like the fact that you've very, very stoutly decide to get into hybrid vehicles, but I don't think Green Mobility's board will be happy to invest so much into charging infrastructure. You can leave that to all the OMCs and all the larger mobility players to do that infrastructure. Remember, as Green Mobility, you have limited funds.
Yes.
Yeah. So otherwise, it's a good, comprehensive presentation, and I like the work that you both put in. So thank you very much, and all the best to both of you. Are you first or second year students in your B school?
We are second year, sir.
Second years. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So all the best as you step into corporate life shortly.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
And
All the
remember,
best. Yeah.
remember that
Thank you, sir.
what I said
Thank
about
you.
PowerPoints when you go into.
Yes, sir. We
Yes,
will
sir.
make sure not to kill anyone else.
Less burden. That will be less burden on the reviewers.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. We'll keep that in mind.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All the best.
Thank you so much,
Bye-bye.
panelists.
Yeah.
Have a good evening.
Good evening to you.
We now have a special education AV from Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund.
Nivesh Fables presents Choose Your Advisor Wisely. There were two rabbits. Willy was the wise one, and Fred was not so wise. They were walking through a field and came upon two carrots. Fred excitedly rushed and picked up a carrot, but it was smaller than it looked. He was confused, so Willy said, "Judging a carrot by its leaves is not the right way." After walking for some time, they came across another set of carrots. This time, Willy chose the carrot first. Fred thought, "How come the carrot with smaller leaves is small?" Willy replied, "I do not judge a carrot by its leaves." For the third time, they found two carrots again. Willy pulled out one carrot and offered it to his friend. Fred was still confused and said, "I don't know how you do it, but I guess you're just smarter than me." "Fred, I may have the wisdom, but I share it with others and help them benefit from it too. You're my friend, you trust me, and I want you to have this carrot." In real life, while making investment decisions, don't we all look for an advisor like Willy, who wouldn't just look at the leaves superfluously, but analyze, inspect, understand the investments thoroughly, and suggest the right one for us? Someone who we can trust our hard-earned money with. As they say, if you look for a financial advisor, look for someone with the heart of a teacher and the soul of a friend. Have you found yours? An investor education and awareness initiative of Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
I think all three teams really worked hard, and it was visible, the way they presented well, and all of them answered well. The exception handling was also good, and team, they were a team, and they. And another thing, I liked was the case study, because that's something which these youngsters need to understand from now, because they are going to be the consumers going ahead, and they will also spread awareness about these very sensitive matters going forward. So once they do themselves know, they will definitely spread more awareness about. So that is what financial awareness and literacy is all about. So that is a ripple effect which they are creating. The highlights of the today's presentation were that the kind of structure all of them presented to us, the kind of study they did, and more than the the study material which was provided or the case study which was provided. I was impressed the way they have done their own study, and they have gone ahead and chucked out a lot of referral materials from the outside world as well. So that was something really good to know from their perspective. And another important piece was in tandem how they were working, and how one person was jumping ahead while handling questions from Vardhini ji and you, and of course from my side as well. So that is overall teamwork which was in place. Of course, for me, all of them are winner, but at the end, in the end, one has to be declared the winner. So overall, with close contest, I think team 1 from NIMS Bengaluru stands out good, because very precise presentation. It was not very content heavy, and they were up to the point, and objective of their presentation was very clear, and they handled the exceptions really well. So today's round winner is team 1, NIMS Bengaluru. So wish them all the best for the next round.
Thank you for watching. This is Businessline Boardroom Challenge 2023.